Women over 60. 5 standards that make men take you seriously. Have you ever noticed how some women command instant respect and serious attention from men, while others are treated as pleasant but not particularly significant? The difference often lies not in age, appearance, or circumstances, but in the standards they set and maintain for how they allow themselves to be treated. Welcome back to 60 Wise Living Advice, where we celebrate the beauty, wisdom, and endless possibilities of life after 60. If this is your first time here, I'm so glad you found us. This is your sanctuary, a community where mature women come together to share insights, support each other, and discover that our most powerful years can still be ahead of us. Today, we're exploring 5 crucial standards that distinguish women who are taken seriously by men from those who are merely tolerated or entertained. These aren't arbitrary rules or game-playing tactics. They're expressions of self-respect that naturally command respect from others. The renowned Maya Angelou once said, "We teach people how to treat us." At our age, we've learned that how others respond to us is often a direct reflection of the standards we set and consistently maintain. The standards we're discussing today aren't about being difficult or demanding. They're about clearly communicating your worth through your actions and expectations. Before we explore these powerful standards, let me share something important. Setting standards isn't about controlling others or making unreasonable demands. It's about knowing your worth and consistently acting in ways that reflect that worth. When you maintain these standards naturally and consistently, you don't have to demand respect. You automatically receive it. The beauty of implementing these standards after 60 is that you have the wisdom and life experience to understand what truly matters in relationships and interactions. You're no longer trying to please everyone or avoid conflict at any cost. You can afford to be selective about how you invest your time and energy because you understand their true value. So let's discover these 5 standards that transform how men perceive and interact with you, creating the kind of respect and serious consideration you deserve at every age. The first standard that commands serious attention is refusing to accept last-minute invitations as standard practice. While occasional spontaneous plans can be delightful, when a man consistently expects you to be available at his convenience without advance planning, he's treating you as a backup option rather than a priority. This standard isn't about being inflexible or rejecting all spontaneous invitations. It's about establishing that your time has value and that meaningful interactions deserve thoughtful planning. When you consistently require reasonable advance notice for plans, you communicate that you have a full, interesting life that requires coordination and respect. The key is consistency paired with grace. You don't need to be harsh or punitive when declining last-minute invitations. You can simply say, "That sounds lovely, but I already have plans. Perhaps we could schedule something for next week." This response is polite but firm, communicating your standard without apology or lengthy explanation. Margaret, 67, implemented this standard when she realized David was habitually calling her on Saturday mornings, asking if she was free that day. "I started declining these invitations graciously but consistently," she shared. "I'd say something like, 'I wish I could, but I've already committed to other plans. I'd love to see you though. What does your schedule look like next weekend?'" The transformation was remarkable. David began planning their dates several days in advance, putting thought into activities he thought she'd enjoy, and treating their time together as something worth anticipating rather than a casual fill-in activity. "When I started requiring advance planning, the quality of our dates improved dramatically," Margaret noted. "He put more effort into making them special because he had to plan ahead." This standard works because it addresses a fundamental truth about respect. People value what requires effort and planning from them. When you make yourself easily available at a moment's notice, you inadvertently communicate that your time isn't particularly valuable or that you don't have better options. Men who are genuinely interested in building something meaningful with you will gladly plan ahead to secure your time. Those who balk at this reasonable expectation are revealing that they're not serious about you or that they expect relationships to revolve around their convenience rather than mutual respect. The second standard that earns serious respect is expecting consistent, reliable communication rather than accepting sporadic contact that leaves you wondering where you stand. This doesn't mean demanding hourly texts or constant availability, but it does mean establishing that regular, respectful communication is a basic requirement for any relationship you invest in. At our age, we understand that good communication is the foundation of healthy relationships. When you accept inconsistent communication, days of silence followed by sudden intense contact, promises to call that aren't kept, or mixed signals about interest and availability, you're teaching men that your peace of mind and emotional security aren't priorities. This standard shows up in how you respond to communication patterns that don't serve you. Instead of accepting excuse after excuse for poor communication, you can address the issue directly and kindly. I've noticed our communication has been pretty inconsistent lately. Clear, regular communication is important to me in any relationship I invest in. How do you see us improving this? Dorothy, 71, found her voice on this issue when James would disappear for days at a time without explanation, then resurface as if nothing had happened. I realized I was spending too much mental energy wondering what his silence meant, she shared. I told him that consistent communication was a basic need for me, and if he couldn't provide that, we weren't compatible. James initially tried to dismiss her concern as being too demanding, but Dorothy held firm. I explained that I wasn't asking for constant contact, just reliable communication that showed basic consideration for my feelings. Either he could provide that, or we needed to end things. James recognized that he was about to lose someone valuable and significantly improved his communication patterns. This standard is powerful because it addresses respect at the most basic level. When someone communicates with you consistently and reliably, they're demonstrating that you matter enough to deserve their consideration and effort. When they don't, they're showing the opposite, regardless of what they might say when they finally do contact you. Men who take you seriously will want to maintain good communication because they recognize its importance to your comfort and the relationship's health. Those who resist this standard or make you feel demanding for expecting it are revealing their true priorities and level of investment. The third standard: you don't chase or pursue anyone. The third standard that commands instant respect is refusing to chase, pursue, or convince anyone of your worth. This means not calling or texting when you haven't heard from someone, not making multiple attempts to schedule plans, and not working harder to maintain the relationship than the other person is. This standard is rooted in the profound understanding that the right person won't need to be convinced, pursued, or chased. Mature men who are genuinely interested in building something with you will show consistent interest through their actions. When you find yourself doing most of the initiating, planning, and effort-making, you're usually dealing with someone who isn't as invested as you are. The key to maintaining this standard is trusting that genuine interest will be demonstrated through consistent action. You don't need to test this or set traps. Simply allow people to show you their level of interest through their natural behavior. When you stop chasing and pursuing, you quickly learn who was genuinely interested and who was simply enjoying the attention and effort you were providing. Linda, 64, learned this lesson when she realized she was always the one calling Thomas, suggesting plans and working to keep their connection alive. She shared, "I decided to step back and see what happened when I stopped initiating everything. For 2 weeks, I heard nothing. That told me everything I needed to know about his actual level of interest." When Linda stopped pursuing, Thomas eventually reached out, but his effort was minimal and inconsistent. Rather than accepting this low level of investment, Linda chose to redirect her energy towards someone who demonstrated genuine enthusiasm for her company without needing to be pursued or convinced. This standard works because it operates on the principle of mutual investment. Healthy relationships require effort from both people, and when you're consistently putting in more effort than you're receiving, you're creating an imbalanced dynamic that breeds resentment and insecurity. Men who are serious about you will demonstrate that seriousness through consistent action and effort. They won't need to be chased because they'll be actively pursuing connection with you. Those who require chasing or convincing are communicating that you are not a priority, regardless of what they might say when you finally get their attention.
The fourth standard is maintaining your own full, interesting life, regardless of your relationship status. This means continuing to pursue your interests, maintain your friendships, work toward your goals, and create fulfillment from sources beyond romantic relationships. When you maintain this standard, you communicate several powerful messages: that you're a complete person with or without a partner, that you have standards for how relationships fit into your life rather than organizing your entire life around relationships, and that you bring richness and depth to any partnership because you have your own sources of joy and meaning. This standard prevents you from becoming overly available or dropping everything whenever romantic possibilities arise. Instead, you integrate relationships into your already fulfilling life, which makes you infinitely more attractive and interesting to mature men who are looking for partnership rather than dependence. Patricia, 69, embodied this standard beautifully when she began dating again after her husband's death. She maintained her book club, her volunteer work, her exercise routine, her friendships, and her travel plans. When men she dated tried to monopolize her time or expected her to be constantly available, she graciously but firmly maintained her boundaries. "I realized that the men who truly respected me were the ones who admired my full life and wanted to add to it rather than replace it," Patricia shared. "David was attracted to the fact that I had my own interests and wasn't sitting around waiting for him to give my life meaning." This standard works because it demonstrates emotional health and self-sufficiency, qualities that are incredibly attractive to men seeking mature partnership. When you maintain your own life, you offer partnership rather than neediness, addition rather than completion, and choice rather than desperation. Men who take you seriously will respect your commitments and interests because they recognize that these aspects of your life are part of what makes you the interesting, fulfilled woman they're attracted to. They won't try to monopolize your time or compete with your other commitments because they understand that your full life is an asset to any relationship.
The fifth standard: you address issues directly and immediately. The fifth standard that commands serious respect is addressing issues, concerns, or problems directly and immediately, rather than letting them build up, dropping hints, or hoping they'll resolve themselves. This means having the courage to speak up when something doesn't feel right, setting boundaries when they're needed, and addressing conflicts with maturity and directness. This standard demonstrates emotional maturity, self-respect, and relationship skills that mature men find incredibly attractive. When you can address issues calmly but firmly, you show that you're capable of maintaining healthy relationships and won't allow problems to fester or resentment to build. The key is addressing issues with the goal of resolution rather than punishment. This means speaking up when someone is consistently late, addressing communication problems before they become major issues, or setting boundaries around behavior that doesn't work for you. Your approach should be collaborative and solution-focused rather than accusatory or dramatic. Eleanor, 68, implemented this standard when William began consistently arriving 15 to 20 minutes late for their dates. Instead of suffering in silence or making passive-aggressive comments, she addressed it directly. "William, I've noticed you've been running late for our plans. Being on time is important to me because it shows respect for my time. Can we talk about how to prevent this in the future?" William was initially defensive, but Eleanor's calm, direct approach made it impossible for him to dismiss her concern. "I appreciated that she brought it up directly instead of letting it become a bigger issue," he later admitted. "It showed me that she respected herself enough to address problems, and that made me respect her more too." This standard works because it demonstrates that you have boundaries and aren't afraid to maintain them. Men who are looking for serious partnership appreciate women who can communicate clearly about their needs and concerns because it prevents misunderstandings and shows relationship maturity. When you address issues directly and immediately, you also prevent the buildup of resentment that can poison relationships. Men who take you seriously will appreciate your direct communication style because it creates clarity and prevents the kind of explosive conflicts that come from unexpressed frustrations.
As we reach the conclusion of our empowering conversation today, I want you to embrace this transformative truth. The respect you receive from others is directly proportional to the standards you set and consistently maintain for yourself. The 5 standards we've explored, requiring advanced planning, expecting consistent communication, refusing to chase, maintaining your own life, and addressing issues directly, these aren't restrictive rules, but expressions of healthy self-respect. What makes these standards so powerful is that they naturally filter your interactions toward people who are capable of mature, respectful relationships while discouraging those who aren't serious about treating you well. You don't have to demand respect when you consistently demonstrate through your actions that you expect and deserve it. The beauty of implementing these standards after 60 is that you have the wisdom and life experience to understand what truly matters in relationships. You're no longer willing to accept breadcrumbs of affection or invest in people who don't invest equally in you. You understand that your time, energy, and emotional well-being are precious resources that deserve to be treated with care and consideration. Remember that the right people, whether romantic partners, friends, or family members, will appreciate and respect these standards because they create clarity and promote healthy interactions. Those who resist or try to make you feel demanding for maintaining these reasonable expectations are revealing their own character and intentions. When you consistently maintain these standards, you don't just command respect from others, you also increase your own self-respect and confidence. You begin to see yourself as someone worthy of consideration, effort, and genuine care, which naturally attracts people who are capable of providing these things. If this message has inspired you to examine and strengthen your own standards, please consider subscribing to our 60 Wise Living Advice family. When you subscribe, you're joining a community of women who understand that respect isn't something we hope to receive, it's something we command through our consistent demonstration of self-worth and healthy boundaries. And please, share this video with another woman who needs to remember that she has the right to set standards that honor her worth and well-being. Sometimes we all need reminders that asking for basic respect and consideration isn't demanding. It's essential for healthy relationships at any age. Until we meet again next week, remember this. You don't need to lower your standards to find love or acceptance. You need to maintain standards that reflect your true worth and trust that the right people will rise to meet them gladly because they recognize the treasure of being in relationship with someone who values herself appropriately. Keep honoring your worth, beautiful souls. The world needs women who understand that respect isn't earned through accommodation and compromise, it's commanded through consistent demonstration of healthy self-regard and clear boundaries.